Happy Hump Day, everybody. Welcome to the Vault XL. I was watching Court TV briefly yesterday or the day before, and I noticed this case pertaining to Henry Denkin'S. I try not to engage in the content because I just don't like watching content pertaining to abuse and murder of children. But I was bored, decided to listen in on commentary from the court proceedings. And what struck me interesting is when it was mentioned by the commentators that Mr. Denkin'S has a sexual abuse allegation against him. So the first thing I said to myself, when did it happen? And why didn't the mother of Breasia know about this? So I decided to talk about it today. And also during this conversation, I will engage in any open conversation. I wanted to put the title as What's New, but because this struck my fancy, I didn't have room in the thumbnail to put, what's new as the title, just to have an open chat about different breaking news, because that's something I want to start on this network. It's talking about just different topics in one live stream and not just focus on one individual topic. So you're welcome to mention other topics. Please do not use any other YouTubers' names or where you got other information or heard information, because I do not like using other YouTubers' names in the comment section and in the chat. Thank you very much. So let's discuss this issue pertaining to his past, Mr. Denkin'S. Des Moines Register is the source. They have her talking here. Something about her is oblivious. I don't know if it's deliberate or what, but when I read this commentary, she acts like she doesn't remember her boy child, who is the son of Mr. Denkin'S. It's her child. They share a child together, her younger child. I don't understand how you wouldn't remember him telling you he shot your girl child. And the defense is arguing that as well. Well, this isn't what you told me. And the boy child tells that lawyer, well, I didn't talk to you. I talked to the other lawyer, and I told that lawyer, the previous lawyer. So what's the issue with the different lawyers? Did he change lawyers throughout? Obviously he did. What were the reasons? But as I pondered this information, because I wanted to dig in the background before I made the title, when did he commit the crime? The location of the crime, was it in the same state? And how is it that she wouldn't know that he assaulted another child? Because when you live in a small jurisdiction, people talk, okay? So there's no way, if they live in a small town, he committed the crime in a small town, such as that town or any other neighboring town, she wouldn't know he committed this crime because, one, he went to penitentiary, and the sentence was 10 years. So I want to know, and I'm going to ask her directly. I don't need to ask the chat or anybody else. I'm going to ask her. Dear, did you not know that the man went to prison for sexual assault of a 5-year-old girl? He was then allegedly 18 years old, 17, 18 years of age. Then we also have to ask if he was also sexually molested himself, who assaulted him, because usually children who molest other children have been molested. Has he molested other children? Is he a dual offender, boy and girl? Because you do have dual offenders. They assault boys and girls. Does he have a preference? And why that child? Then one would say, why any child? Of course, naturally. But some assault any child, doesn't matter. Any girl. Doesn't say the preference is a girl, doesn't matter, any girl. I don't think they're really picky. Sexual sadists. I don't think they're picky. Especially when it comes to children. I don't think they're picky. But there was something about her. He fancied her, I do believe. So then you got to ask the ultimate question. The brother is younger than her. How young is he? When was the last time the mother was with Mr. Denkin'S? And if she ever lived with Mr. Denkin'S or had him come in and out of her house with this girl child, did he ever assault the girl child that is now deceased? Everybody in the chat, please calm down. Let me get the information out. Just let me get it out to the public. My thing is, if she knew he was an offender, one, why would you have this man in your house? Why would you be dating this man? Why would he even be of interest? Let's start there. Why would he be of interest to you? Because as I said, I do not know the population of this city, but as I said, I know people talk. And at some point, I do believe she would have known that he went to penitentiary for sexual assault of a child. So that would be number one. Why would you be interested in a man who's committed a sex crime, whether it be against a child or an adult? That's number one. Did he molest the child while dating her? Because he did make a baby with Breasia's mother. That's the boy child, who I believe is the one that testified in court. If not, I stand corrected. All of this is confusing to me because I'm really not trying to follow it to bring content every day. It's just something I saw. It piqued my interest when I heard the mother speaking yesterday. And I said, let me do a little digging about Mr. Denkin'S and let me see how far back this crime goes back. Because this is a case of a guy she just met recently, a few years ago. He came from out of state. She didn't know he had a criminal background because a lot of people do not do checks on people that they date. We meet people all the time. They can give aliases and you don't even know who you're talking to. And that's the one thing I've learned about women. A lot of times we just go with the flow with men. We don't ask where they live, where they're from. Do they have living parents, brothers and sisters? Hey, is this your actual government name? Hey, can I see your ID? Now, naturally, I wouldn't ask that on a first meeting someone, just casually meeting. But if you take up with someone and you decide you want to start bringing them into your home, car, whatever, you need to make sure they have a legal ID and the name that they gave you is the name on the ID, especially if you have children. Let me start with the Des Moines Register. Authorities have charged a registered sex offender from eastern Iowa with first-degree murder in the death of 10-year-old Breasia Terrell. Henry Earl Denkin'S, 48, who was previously named a person of interest in the case. He has also been charged with first-degree kidnapping, according to Scott County Attorney Michael Walton, who made the announcement during a news conference Wednesday morning. Prosecutors said Denkin'S shot and killed Terrell when she and her half-brother, Denkin'S' son, were staying overnight at his Davenport apartment last summer. Terrell, also of Davenport, was last seen early in the morning of July 10th at Denkin'S apartment complex, just hours after she used his cell phone to text her mother, Aisha Langford, to say goodnight. So here we go. Hours after she used the defendant's phone to text her mom, Aisha, the child goes missing. Her disappearance sparked a massive search that included properties in Davenport and Clinton. Human remains found March 22nd by fishermen near DeWitt were confirmed to be Terrell's on March 31st. And from my understanding, watching Court TV, that's about, I think, 20 miles from Davenport, the town of DeWitt. Words cannot describe the heartache and the emptiness that we feel, Langford said after police identified her daughter's body. 1 second. Our love for Breasia has gotten us through the past 9 months and will continue to see us through as we fight for justice. Denkin'S removed Terrell from his home with premeditation, malice, a forethought, and intent to kill, according to a criminal complaint. Walton released new additional details during Wednesday's news conference. according to the Associated Press, saying only that the case was developed through an intensive 9-month investigation involving numerous agencies. He said that he had to withhold investigative details while his office prosecutes Denkin'S. Now, one would ask, why is that? Because the only time law officials don't want to be vocal about certain things is if indeed a person is connected to law enforcement, as you've heard with the case with the lady up north who was killed on a hiking trail. People, they have to be careful about what they say. Different people are affiliated, with the case, especially people who may be persons of interest. So a lot of times in certain cases, I think that's the case I was referring to, law officials have to be very careful what they say and do not say, as not to get the information out to the wrong person who can then go double back and give that information to a potential person of interest, suspect. While announcing charges is a significant step in this case, it is important to understand that bringing forth charges is not the end of the legal process, but just the beginning, he said. Davenport police declined to state a motive in Terrell'S slaying to the Des Moines Register because it is related to the investigative information. So let's ask that question. Why did Mr. Denkin'S kill this child? Is it sexual in nature? Did he make a pass at the little girl? She rebuffed. She got mad, hollered, screamed, threatened to call her mom, run out. And he took advantage of her. Naturally, he would, because he's an adult. So it wouldn't matter if she consented, non-consented. She's still a child. He had the upper hand. So what is the information that we're going to hear later during trial to a motive for the murder of the child? To many, it's not going to matter. And then to many, it's going to be presumptive that it was sexual in nature. He wanted to take advantage of a girl child. Maybe didn't want to kill her, but if she rebuffed, hollered, screamed, threatened to tell somebody, he felt like, well, I better go ahead and kill her because I can't let that information get out. I can't have law officials questioning me touching a girl child and or abusing a girl child. Denkin'S' criminal past. Denkin'S, then 18, pleaded guilty to third-degree sexual abuse in August of 1990 in connection with sexual abuse of a 5-year-old girl when he was 17, according to court records. He was originally charged with second-degree sexual abuse, but was sentenced to 10 years in prison on the lesser charge. Days after Terrell'S disappearance, he was jailed on charges that he violated sex offender registry requirements by failing to update his address. So this is going to be a problem for many people. Many people are going to say, well, why are you just now worrying about him having an updated address? He was walking around this entire time. Now he's killed a kid. Now you're worrying about bringing him up on violations of the sex registry. See, this is where a lot of us get really pissed off with the system. You wait to bring charges on something else related to a murder when the person was walking around the entire time violating the registry or not seeing their parole officer, probation officer, or committed another crime while on probation, parole, and then we're looking like, well, what's the point? She's dead now. She's dead. She is dead. She's not coming back. They can't get this child back. So what is going to say? Somebody wasn't visiting him regularly. Because if you were visiting him regularly as a parole officer, you would know where he lived. You would know where he lived. You would know where he worked. You're supposed to also search the premises where they live. You're not supposed to just walk in, look at them. Okay, everything's great. Walk back out the door. We learned this with the case out in California with the girl hiding out in the tent because the parole officer never went in the backyard. Had a whole human being held captive in a tent with his wife. I think many of you remember that story. And the parole officer should have been fired And I feel like they should be brought up on charges as well because you didn't do your job. You didn't do due diligence. You can't just go walk in one space, such as the living area, look around. Oh, I don't see any porn. I don't see little children. I'm going to walk back out the door. That's not good enough because you're not doing your damn job. That's the point of the person being released on parole, is that they are monitored. Now, we know they're going to be out of sight at some point, but when they're in their own home domain, you need to be checking that house thoroughly. Closet space, attic, cellar, backyard, garage, under the bed, loose floorboards, loose walls. You're supposed to know what to look for just in case they have a hidden compartment inside of the house with a whole human in there. Because if you're going to do a half-assed job, you need not do the job. That's just my personal opinion. So days after her disappearance, Breasia, he was jailed on charges that he violated the sex offender registry because he didn't update his address. Denkin'S pleaded not guilty to those 3 sex offender registration violations and was to stand trial next week. But at a hearing Wednesday, he waived his right to a speedy trial and asked the court to allow him to represent himself with an appointed standby counsel assisting him. Denkin'S' previous attorney, Jack Dustheimer, told the court he was very concerned that anything Denkin'S said during trial could be used against him in his new murder case. So one is going to wonder, as I said, what happened with the last attorney, Mr. Dustheimer? He told the court he was concerned that anything Denkin'S said would be used against him. Well, this is why you don't represent yourself in court. You have a fool for a client and an attorney. You don't represent yourself in court. And naturally, he wants a bench trial. This is where a judge makes the decision, not a jury, because he rather weigh on the judge. Let the judge weigh in, not 12 members. Because I do not know if they have the death penalty in the state. But let's just say they do. He doesn't want 12 people saying, yeah, let's give him death too after we find him guilty. So let me get a bench trial. Quicker, easier, faster, out of the way, less hassle. He knows exactly what he's doing. Stupid as he is, he still knows what he's doing. The state plans on seeking habitual offender enhanced sentencing for Denkin'S based on those charges and past felony convictions, according to court documents. If convicted as a habitual offender, Denkin'S would have to remain in confinement for at least 3 years. The state of Illinois also wants Denkin'S after he failed to appear in court in April 2019 on drug charges. So now we have a drug offender in another state, Illinois. In that case, he was charged with delivery or possession with intent to deliver over 900 grams of methamphetamine and manufacturing and delivering, or the intent to deliver over 200 grams of amphetamine. So do we have a current user, or was a current user at the time of the arrest for the violation of the sex registry? Was he sex induced when he decided to kidnap this girl child? Is he a known drug user? Is it just selling of drugs, or both? Sales and uses. He will not be extradited to Illinois until his pending charges in Iowa are settled, court documents indicate. If Denkin'S is convicted of first-degree murder, he would be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is a mandatory sentence in Iowa. So, maybe they don't have the death penalty. I do not know. Very interesting information. If you're curious to this information, Des Moines Register is the source. This was uploaded in May of this year, May 6th. This was to give you information of this upcoming trial, which is now, should be approaching what, day 4. I was trying to go back in to see where the mother was speaking. I have a problem with her, and I have a problem with the grandmother. I'm going to bring you that commentary as well. It's a bit winded, so bear with me. a few people gave their commentary in court yesterday. We have the brother testifying. The defense is going back and forth with him on information they're saying they did not have from him. They're asking him basically, did he lie? They asked the mother, is he known to lie? She said he wouldn't lie about his sister. Well, he would lie about his sister if he was threatened by a big burly ass black man. Hell yeah, he would lie. You got a big black man that just shot his sister. He saw that, allegedly. He threatens the kid. You better not say anything. I'll kill you too. Who's to say he didn't threaten his own damn son? So hell yeah, he would lie. See, you're talking about human nature. People know when to tell the truth and people know when to lie, fudge information. He's a child. Is he known to lie, the little boy? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know him. But if you're being threatened by a big ass person, you would lie too, as to preserve your life. You better not say anything. I'll kill you like I did your sister. I'll kill your mama, your grandmama, whoever. Who's to say he didn't threaten the little boy with harm to him and his family members? I don't know. So I'd like to know the truth about what the little boy saw while he and the sister were there. Why were they spending the night? Why did this stupid grandmother let the little girl go and spend the night? Why the fuck is she talking about, I don't question my grandchildren? Well, you should question grandchildren. Maybe that little girl be alive today if you cared enough. Yeah, I'm going to say that to you too, Grandma. You act like the kids are running the show. That's why we got a whole dead kid. Because somebody didn't care enough. When do we decide to start letting little children make decisions for who can go where and can't go where? The mother's nowhere around. She's at work. They're at the grandmother's apartment. The little boy leaves. He's telling his whole sister, oh, yeah, you could come too, allegedly. She leaves. This is BS to me. But this is what's wrong with these people raising children, these young people raising children. You all don't get it. You don't have enough in you to care, so you don't need to be having babies. That's first and foremost. Whether this is a Denkin'S story, Breasia story, stop procreating. That's the fucking problem with this world. You're just laying down, making these babies back to back, and you're just letting them go out here and fend for themselves. And then when they pop up dead, pop up missing, pop up abused, everybody wants to cry wolf when they're not even being monitored. And you're going to hear that information that the little boy told the sister, oh, you can come on. Come on. And then they asked the grandmother, well, hell, what is your role? What she tell the court, I don't question my grandchildren. Well, then what the hell are you doing keeping them? So you're just as bland and blank as your damn daughter. So your daughter is ignorant and she gets it from her stupid mama. How about that? So then it's a generational curse, as you see. Stupid grandmother, stupid mother, then the children grow up to be stupid like their parents because they are not reared properly. Yeah, I'm on one because this is why we have children abused and then they become wayward if they don't end up dead because they're not reared properly. And then everybody starts judging them. What's wrong with her? What's wrong with him? Oh, they don't have any empathy. Oh, they don't know how to act. They don't know how to talk. They're ghetto ratchet. And God knows I got a story to tell you. An experience I experienced yesterday at work. Ghetto ratchet is putting it mildly. These young people are walking out here. They're walking wounded. Don't know how to talk. Don't have no manners. Girl, I noticed yesterday. Wanting to be the head honcho, wanting to be the lead, wanting to be in charge of everybody, and she's there working like everybody else with a bland-ass title, but want to be somebody, but she doesn't know how to converse. So like I told everybody, you know the best remedy for people like her? Ignore her. Because she wants attention. Queen ain't going to give it to her. And when they see you're not feeding into their bullshit, they're either going to rear up or they're going to bow down. And what do you think she did with the queen? her little ass bowed down. Because I let it be known where she could hear. I don't argue with fools. I ain't going to argue with you about a damn thing. I can tell the damn supervisor that. I ain't arguing with you about nothing, especially some nonsense. And I don't argue with children. But when I see people acting like they're stupid and don't have no fucking conversation, they don't know how to talk, you know the best thing for you to do? Don't even converse with them, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an argument. They're looking for somebody to stoop to their level. And that's why we have the problems we have right now. And I'm sensing that in this story, that there is no supervision of the children, because you're going to hear that. The grandmother told the little girl she could not go to Mr. Denkin'S house. Well, then if she couldn't go, how she ended up dead? And why is he on trial for murdering her? Kidnap and murder. And the state appears to be alleging this was all a deliberate kidnap, intentional kidnap of a girl child. This is bad. This is really bad. Let's get to the next conversation pertaining to this sad case. KWQC.com is my second source. Breasia's grandmother, cadaver dog handler, testified Tuesday. This was uploaded yesterday, everybody. Donita Gardner testified. She told granddaughter Breasia Terrell that she could not go with her brother to Henry Denkin'S apartment because it was not a part of the plan made by her mother. Testimony continued Tuesday morning in the bench trial for Henry Denkin'S. Oh, sorry about that. I'll go ahead and let that play.
Charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping in the death of 10-year-old Breasia Terrell. Today, we heard from a cadaver dog handler about what his dogs discovered while investigating the case. TV6's Jenna Jackson spent the day in the Scott County Courthouse and joins us now live with more on the testimony and the latest developments today in court. Jenna?
Yeah, Sharon, and it was partly through that testimony of the canine handler that we learned that the Davenport Police Department likely believed that Terrell was dead just days after she was reported missing. As I mentioned, in part, we learned that through this testimony. Now, of course, Breasia Terrell was reported missing on July 10th. Jim Peters, the canine handler, was contacted by the Davenport Police Department to bring in his cadaver dogs around July 11th, so just 24 hours later. Now, Peters testified this morning that his two dogs smelled human remains on 3 different key components of this case. Now, the first, both dogs hit on the wooded area of Credit Island. You may remember earlier in testimony, we learned a shoe print was identified by police in that same area. Second, the dogs hit on a trailer that was parked near the RV Denkin'S owned. And now this is where the testimony gets a little bit scientific. I'm going to do my best to explain it to everyone. Peters essentially explained that molecules produced by human remains can travel in the wind and come to rest in certain areas nearby. Now, third, the dogs smelled human remains on the passenger side of Denkin'S Impala.
Does that become very significant when considering all of the investigative facts that were developed through interviews and just investigative techniques utilized by law enforcement?
That, if you break it down, that would suggest that there was the odor of human decomposition or blood at each of those locations.
Now, the defense brought up that those dogs, while they hit on human remains, they did not identify that was for sure Breasia's remains, and that also the dogs could be hitting on human remains that had been in that area years prior. So it's not an exact science, essentially, is what the defense was getting to today. And it's also important to remember that Breasia's body was not found in the Credit Island area. It was found out near DeWitt and near the Kunow implements out in that area. So how all of this is going to play into the state's case, of course, we don't know quite sure yet, but this is just laying some of that foundation for what will come later on. Reporting live in Davenport, I'm Jenna Jackson, KWQC TV6 News.
All right, thank you, Jenna. Now our crew will be at the courthouse every day covering this trial. You can also find updates and a live feed on our TV6 News app and website.
All right, this trial is supposed to last about 5 weeks. So we're already into, I believe, day 4. So we will see what transpires with the testimony from the witnesses and any new information. Sorry that ran over while I was talking. I wasn't expecting it to start playing. Let me finish this article. TV6 is the source. Once again, Breasia was at the apartment of Donita Gardner. That's the grandmother, assumingly her mother's mother. She testified in court that Breasia was not supposed to be going with the brother to Henry Denkin'S apartment. It was not a part of the plan by the mother. Testimony continued pertaining to this 2020 death of the girl child, then 10 years old. Denkin'S, 51, is charged with first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping in Scott County District Court. If convicted, he faces a mandatory sentence of life without parole. After Breasia was told she couldn't go with her brother DL to his father's, Breasia asked Gardner to call her mother, Asha Langford. Gardner said she didn't like the call while Langford was working. As DL was leaving Gardner's apartment, he said to Breasia that she could come along anyway. Gardner said when Langford called later that night, she told her that Breasia went with DL and Denkin'S. Langford said that was okay. This isn't going to sit well with many people because many people are going to ask the questions that I'm asking. Aisha, you did not know that Henry molested a girl child 30 years before? You had no idea that he molested a whole child. At that time, it would have been less than 30 years ago. Because people talk. So unless he wasn't from Iowa, he just got sent over to Iowa for prison. That's the only way people are going to say, hell, give you a pass for not knowing. And as I said, many people don't Google search people or pay that little money to get a background check of a said person. So I'm going to ask the ultimate question. Is Mr. Denkin'S from Iowa? The area where they are from, Davenport or any surrounding counties. Did the mother know that he had molested a girl child in 1990 and was convicted? Did she willingly talk to a child predator and didn't give a fuck? That's my question. And then I'm going to ask the next question. If you knew all this information, Aisha, why would you be interested in him? Period. So we got the little girl leaving out with the boy child. We also have the grandmother calling Miss Aisha and Aisha saying it was okay. Gardner also said Breasia was not the type to go outside at night without someone she knew and was not the type to wander off. When asked what DL told his grandmother about the events around Breasia's death, Gardner said, I don't question my grandchildren about anything. Why not? You want to say that in open court? See, this is when you know you're dealing with fools. You didn't ask nothing. So what? You said, well, I'll leave it up to my daughter. I'll let my daughter ask the boy child, hey, what happened over there at Henry's house? You're a grandmother and you're not concerned about what happened to your granddaughter. That's what you just told the court yesterday. I don't give two fucks about these kids. And I don't care what they do, don't do. I don't question them. So now we see why your daughter is dingy. Because her mother is dingy. So this is a generational curse of dingbats. I don't question my grandchildren. Ain't this a bitch? Well, maybe somebody should question the grandchildren. Maybe somebody should be questioning your child rearing skills, how you came to have this dingbat of a daughter. What the hell is wrong with you? Who the hell raised you? You know how stupid that sounds to say that in open court? I don't question my grandchildren. So basically you're telling everybody, you just let the damn kids do what they want to do. They want to come in, pop firecrackers in the middle of the fucking living room. Hell yeah, go ahead, light it up. Burn the whole damn house down. I don't care. I don't care. Hey, Mom, I'm dating a child molester, rapist. Oh, that's wonderful news. Does he have a father or a brother? I need a man. Yeah, I'm on one today. Because this is why we have these 6 stories. This is why I don't like talking about children's stories. Because a lot of times the stories are derived from recklessness, reckless parenting. Not all the time, but most of the time. The stories always have a little seediness in it besides the actual allegation against the suspect. They start digging up bones, all type of shit starts flying out of people's mouths and closet doors, cellar doors, and you start realizing these kids didn't have a chance. And that's what I'm seeing here. Because I'm going to bet my bottom dollar Aisha knew he was a criminal, especially if he's from the area people talk. You start talking to somebody that's raped some kid, you want me to believe nobody ever said, girl, you know he been to prison. They said he raped a little 5-year-old girl. Oh, he did? Okay. And yet you still lay up with him and then make a whole damn kid with him. And people are going to question that. Aisha, did you know that you took up with a rapist and then you made a whole child with them, and then you also let your children go around this rapist? So then we're going to ask, did he ever live in your house with you, with your kids? Lord have mercy. Do you have any more children, Aisha? Do you like taking up with criminals, sadists, rapists? We have a right to ask because you have children. Now, you want to be a dodo bird and date prisoners and rapists and child molesters without children in your possession? That's your business. But so long as you have children, we have a right to inquire. When asked, once again, as I said, when the grandmother was asked what DL told her about Breasia's death, I don't question the grandchildren about anything. The first witness of the day was Amanda Kinney, an RN at Genesis East in Davenport, who described 2 police officers escorting Denkin'S to the hospital where she performed the swabs to get his DNA in the system. Next, cadaver dog trainer and handler Jim Peters said he was called out to Credit Island by police on July 11th. That's one day after this child goes missing. He told Scott County Attorney Kelly Cunningham that his search dogs Rocky and JoJo alerted separately on the same spot for the scent of human remains near the entrance road off River Drive. His dogs next inspected the storage facility where Denkin'S RV was parked before it was towed. The dogs alerted to the scent of human remains beneath an old camper trailer, which did not belong to Denkin'S. I want you to think about that for just a second. The second place the dogs went was to a storage facility where the RV was parked before it got towed. The dogs alerted of human remains beneath an old camper trailer, which did not belong to Denkin'S. So now we got to ask that question. Were human remains in that trailer at some point? Whomever that belongs to. And you heard that in this news brief as well. That's what the defense is alluding to. Could it be that the dogs have hit on scents from other dead people besides the girl child? They were also called to the police storage facility where vehicles associated with Denkin'S were being held. A Chevy Impala, a Chevy Camaro, and an RV. Peter said the dogs circled the vehicles separately, but did not go inside. He said both dogs alerted on the passenger side door of the Impala for the scent of human remains. The dogs had pressed their noses into the seam of the door when circling the RV. Peter said both dogs alerted after they stuck their noses in the holes in the exterior of the vehicle. They were next called out to the intersection of Veterans Memorial and Eastern, where police told Peters they were trying to gauge whether Denkin'S had driven through that area. Peters asked for a scent article from the person of interest for Rocky to use. When trailing a non-human remains scent, dogs are given a scented piece of clothing from the person of interest. A swab of the item or the item itself is placed in a plastic bag. This is what happened near Veterans Memorial. Police gave Peters a shoe belonging to Breasia. Peters said Rocky, who was on a long lead, pulled Peters across the intersection. Now, I want you to think about that now. This is a dog leading a whole human across a road, which meant the dog was in odor, which indicated to Peters that the person of interest moved through the area. That's how smart these damn dogs are. Carrying the shoe around in a bag and letting the dog lead the way. So the dog is hinting, yes, he was in this area. Very interesting. When training the search dogs, Peter said the dogs are given treats when they correctly alert. When asked by defense attorney Joel Waters if dogs could give alerts out in the field because they associate them with treats, Peter said dogs could have that memory but are not given treats when working. Very good information, because I was thinking the same before I read it. Who's to say this fool, which you know he asked, could the dogs just have acted as if they smell something because they know they wanted treats, because they're used to getting a treat? And he says we don't give the treats until after the session is over. Waters asked Peters to affirm that the dogs did not found a body on Credit Island and that there is no way of knowing whether the scent of human remains belonged to the person of interest or the age of the remains. Peters said that was true. Peters told Waters the same could be said for the searches of the exterior vehicles. Peters also said that he did not know the ownership history of the vehicles and that the scent by the old camper could have come from any vehicle in the outdoor storage area. Waters asked if the scent items for trailing had ever been worn by anyone else, and Peters said he did not know. FBI Special Agent Eli McBride testified that he leads the evidence response team, which specializes in searching for and collecting items for investigation. Forensic searches include trace evidence, DNA, latent prints, or anything that would need lab work. This evidence could corroborate whether a person of interest had been at a specific location or vehicle. McBride said they were tasked to process 3 vehicles, an RV, Impala, and a Camaro. He said he was told a machete was removed from the RV before the FBI team began. The search of the motorhome was treated more like a search of a residence, he said, because there is more space and more items inside. The team began by photographing the exterior. Members then searched for items that might have evidentiary value. Then they looked for trace and transient evidence such as blood, hair, fibers. When searching the RV, 2 areas were of interest: the bed area and the sink. Sinks are usually used to clean off hands or other items. McBride said in general, if sexual activity is suspected, the bed is the presumptive place where it would happen. Exactly. But all areas were searched and photographed, including items in the closets, drawers, and cabinets. McBride said there is always the potential that things were missed, but he thinks his team did a good job. Some of the photographs shown to McBride by Cunningham were of a white t-shirt, spray bottle of cleaner with bleach, a blanket on the bed that his team found and documented. The blanket has a red stain that caught the attention of ERT. 2 hairs were found and collected. ERT then searched the Impala. When searching the trunk, the FBI removed items to photograph them. The trunk was earlier photographed by a local civilian crime scene technician, but items were not moved. When asked by Cunningham if there were items in the trunk that were disturbing, McBride said there was a black bat and a hatchet. ERT also found a black sheath that could have been used with a machete. And we all know what a sheath is from dealing with the Koiberger and the Idaho 4. It is the case that holds the knife. When bleach is used, DNA is destroyed in blood of bodily fluids. Okay? Excuse me, I jumped a little bit. On cross-examination, Defense Attorney Waters asked if McBride smelled bleach in the motorhome. He said he didn't remember smelling that. On redirect, Cunningham asked if the smell of bleach could dissipate, to which he said it could. When bleach is used, DNA is destroyed in blood or bodily fluids. As to what wasn't found in the vehicle searches, McBride told Waters that neither firearms nor ammunition were found. The final witness of the night was Jason Ellerbach. He has been an officer with the Davenport Police Department for about 16 years. In July of 2020, he was a sergeant in the gun unit and helped in the search of Credit Island and was asked to help organize search efforts in Clinton. Cell phone records from Denkin'S showed he traveled there on July 10th and went to Walmart. Video surveillance shows gathered later show Denkin'S he purchased bleach. Defense attorney Freese asked Ellerbach if he collected any evidence himself. He said no. Freese also asked if the police believed in the first 24 hours if Denkin'S was suspected in her disappearance. Ellerbach said yes and also agreed with Freese that the department would not have brought in dogs that searched for human remains unless they had a strong belief Breasia was dead. Out of the 90 witnesses that the state has on its list, so far 13 have taken the stand. A bench trial began Thursday with opening statement from the prosecution. 3 people had testimony Thursday, including Davenport Police Special Victims Unit Sergeant Jeffrey Pfeiffer, Davenport Police Sergeant Chris Mayer, and Mona Varela, who took the first report of Breasia's disappearance. Testimony on Friday, including a continuation with Sergeant Pfeiffer, who said evidence shows she didn't run away. Testimony ended with Breasia Terrell'S brother DL saying he woke up in the middle of the night and his sister was nowhere to be found. Monday, Breasia's younger brother, her mother, and Henry Denkin'S' former girlfriend, who was his girlfriend at the time, testified. The trial is expected to last 5 weeks. KWQC 6 News is the source. Whew, a lot of information. And that's expected when you have a lot of witnesses and people to give their commentary. Basically, the defense has been going back and forth with the baby boy, making him out to be a liar and not giving certain information to the defense team. But as he said, you're not the lawyer I first spoke to pertaining to Mr. Denkin'S and me seeing him kill my sister. So we have the child talking about seeing a knife, I believe with blood on it, bleach being used. This is bad. And then we have all this information about an RV and a car. So one could say he took the child out of the house and he stored her in the RV, put her in the car. She was possibly going from place to place until he decided where to discard her. Because when you're panicking, let's just say he didn't intend to kill her, but he did intend to, sexually assault her. Something jumped off. Maybe she screamed, she hollered, she fought back. She said no. He got scared. He continued to sexually assault her, then murdered her. Now I've got to get rid of this kid. So you've got to find a way to, get her out of the house. He was in an apartment, first floor, second floor. Don't know how it's set up. Townhouse. I don't know. But he's got to get her out. Then he has another kid in there, which is his own son. I got to make sure he doesn't see me take her out. But then yet we hear he witnessed the father shoot her. So now this is even more creepy. So then in your head, you're thinking, okay, well, how did it all go down? Did he sexually assault the little girl in front of the boy? Did he sexually assault her? Was there an argument? What the hell was really going on? And I pray that we don't find out the brother was involved in any nefarious entanglements with his own sister. Because you cannot trust the sadists. We've heard the worst of stories dealing with these type of people. Their family members know, their girlfriends, boyfriends, wives know, other relatives know. They involve other people in the dealings of sexual assault. You don't know how far down the rabbit's hole these stories go. And now you're dealing with a whole child who's alive, and we don't know what's been done to him. what he was coerced to say, not say, if he's giving you bits and pieces of a story. See, we don't know. Now, the mother has alluded in court that, yes, he makes up stuff, lies, whatever word you want to use, but he wouldn't lie about his sister. Well, the defense could say, well, a liar is a liar. If he'll lie about one thing, he'll lie about another. How do I know that your child wouldn't lie about his sister? See, you don't know. I don't know, and I'm not here to say either way because he is a child and I don't know him personally. But I know if you threaten a child, he or she will lie if he or she feels threatened. And that's the very reason why children do not report being sexually touched, for the fear they'll be ostracized, not believed, or worst case scenario, they'll be treated horribly as a liar, because a lot of people just do not want to believe that this person is a sadist for whatever sick reason. And then a lot of people know that the people are sadists and they still won't cut them off. Why? I do not know. But from personal experience, trust me, the people who rally along with the sadists, they're just as sick. They're just as sick. Because when you willingly know that a person is a sadist, they've touched you or touched other people you know, and then you take your children around them, you allow that person to come into your house and eat and sleep in your house, you are just as bad as the sadist. Because there is no fucking way I'm going to let a child molester come into my house and be around my children if I know they have touched me or touched other children, family members. That's bullshit. You're not coming in my house. You're not welcome in my house. And I don't need to tell you why I don't want you in my house. You know why I don't want you in there. It's not a conversation. But I know people who have allowed people in their homes knowing that the person is a sadist and allowing the person to be around their damn children. And then that person has children, the sadist. So one would use deduction. He also molested his own children. Now, some would say, well, you're jumping the gun. You can't say he molested the little girl. Well, then why is she dead? Because that's usually the reason that people kill children. Either out of hatred or they've touched them and they don't want them to tell. He's already been to prison, as an 18-year-old. He doesn't want to go to prison near 50. Hell no, I've done this already as a young person. I'm not about to have a repeat. And we know with rapists, they end up becoming murderers because they do not want an investigation. This is very troublesome information. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji, 129 Cash App, stickers and chats are welcome during this live stream. I'm approaching hour 1. Let's play a little bit of this testimony, and then we're welcome to talk about any other subject matters that pique your interest pertaining to true crime or breaking news. Thank you for joining me. This is a very scary. This is just horrible to me because I really think her mother is trifling and the grandmother is trifling as well. My movie of the week is The Canal, now playing on Crackle. Please check it out. It's a very interesting mystery thriller. And please pray for our neighbors in Hawaii. Because last I checked it 2 days ago, they were at 93. Those who have perished, there may be possibly more people who have died. I'm going to go up here to Court TV because they will have some of that testimony. It's very scary. Court TV has a recap just uploaded 17 minutes ago. Let's hear what they have to say. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me. Linda, Dolly, Hippie, Lady, Leo. Thank you all so much for your time.
And now he is standing trial for her murder. Day 5 of the sleep.
Oh, day 5.
Murder trial set to begin at 10 a.m. Eastern. Denkin'S is charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping after the 10-year-old disappeared while spending the night with her younger brother at the defendant's home. Denkin'S has chosen a bench trial, meaning a judge, not a jury, will determine his fate. On Tuesday, the grandmother of Breasia took the stand. While on cross, Donita Gardner described the defendant's relationship with Breasia prior to her going missing.
Well, you had met Mr. Denkin'S before July 9th of 2020, correct?
Yeah.
And Breasia and DL had spent time with him prior to July 9th, 2020, correct?
You talking about before or during
Before July 9th of 2020.
Yeah, a couple of times.
And Breasia was never uncomfortable spending time with Henry, correct?
No.
Same question, but with DL.
No.
Was CS ever uncomfortable spending time with Henry? Mr. Denkin'S?
No.
Okay. In fact, she as in Breasia viewed.
So it seems like he mentioned another name of a child, perhaps. I thought he said CS. Let's go back. Because are we now talking about 3 children? Because allegedly DL is the son of Mr. Denkin'S. Breasia, I call her Breasia. Breasia was not. But I could have sworn he mentioned someone else. Let me go back and repeat because I'm getting confused. Hold on a minute.
The defendant's relationship with Breasia prior to her going missing.
Well, you had met Mr. Denkin'S before July 9th of 2020, correct?
Yeah.
And Breasia and DL had spent time with him prior to July 9th, 2020, correct?
You talking about before or during
Before July 9th of 2020.
Yeah, a couple of times.
And Breasia was never uncomfortable spending time with Henry, correct?
No.
Same question, but with DL.
No.
Was CS ever uncomfortable spending time with Henry?
Right there, he says, was CS ever uncomfortable? That's a 3rd child. That has to be another child. DL, Denkin'S' own child with Aisha. Breasia, who is not Denkin'S' child. And now a 3rd child, CS. So this is where I'm getting confused. Who is the youngest child? And how many baby fathers now are we speaking of? Dear God, I'm getting confused. I hate stories like this. They make me sick to my stomach. Because now we're talking about different baby daddies. Who's on first? Who's on second? Because he is now mentioning another child, CS. Is this a boy or a girl? And is this Denkin'S' child or another man's child? Damn. It's ridiculous. But you hear her say, the children have been with Denkin'S before, and there was no problem, or the girl child did not act uncomfortable going around him. Excuse me, but this is her version, the grandmother.
Mr. Denkin'S?
No.
Okay. In fact, she as in Breasia viewed Mr. Denkin'S as a father figure, right?
Yeah.
You never saw Mr. Denkin'S be mean or inappropriate with Breasia, did you?
No.
How about DL?
No.
Did he seem more constructive?
Wait a minute.
Was he a constructive father?
No, I take that back with DL. One time he got in trouble, and Henry didn't whoop him. He made him jog. Made him run.
He made him work out?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he make him do anything other than running?
Just the running.
Okay. Did he make him work out in any other way?
No.
Okay. Did he ever do that same thing but with Breasia?
No.
Okay. How about CS?
No.
CS, there we have another child.
I think a little bit in your testimony you had mentioned that, in your opinion, if Bree would be outside, she would be uncomfortable, right?
That night?
At any point in time, she would be uncomfortable if she was outside alone.
This only at night. During the day, she was all right.
And she would have come and knocked on a door, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was typical of her?
Yeah.
You've had plenty of opportunity to speak with Aisha and...
Okay, I want to intervene right there. Breasia, pronounced her name incorrectly, excuse me. Breasia did not like to be outside at night. Why is that? Did something happen to the girl child at night? Because a lot of children are savvy in this day and time. I don't care if they're toddlers. They're savvy. Too damn grown, quite frankly. So to have a child, girl child, that I would say, prepubescent, afraid of the dark outside is, I would say, would be quite odd. That's something I have not heard, because I've seen children who play outside from morning till night, and I haven't heard any child say, I'm afraid of the dark. So I do find that interesting and a bit odd, because as I said, I've seen children playing, seen children out at night, and they didn't seem to be fearful to me, running up and down stairs and running in between cars and the sidewalk. And to hear that this girl child did not like the dark, she would come inside once dark or near dark, whichever, I find it very interesting, and I'm going to ask why. Because that's going to lead me to believe that maybe something nefarious took place, or an attempt of something nefarious took place while it was dark outside. Or perhaps she just has a fear of the dark. But most children would have the fear of dark inside of the house. Old stories, ghost stories, horror movies, cut off the lights. Some children still need a night light on. They want the door open, because most people have their children in, if they care about their children, and bring them in at a decent time. They let their children, they allow their children to come in before it gets dark. But yes, we do have some people who do allow their children to play outside. I don't want to seem so mean, as if I never played outside at night. Of course I did. I lived in the inner city, one of the most violent cities in America, Chicago. But that was a different time. Angela playing in Chicago in the 70s versus now. I wouldn't trust an 8-year-old to go walk to the store by herself. And I think about that now, like, damn, you were walking to the store alone at 8. There's just no way I would allow an 8-year-old now to walk to the store alone in Chicago. I don't think I'd let an 8-year-old walk alone even here. In the inner city of Knoxville, hell no. No. Because the kids' mindsets aren't the same as when I was growing up. As I said, we were more savvy. We were street smart. These kids here, they don't have that. They may think they're smart or street smart, but they're not. They're not. And I'm not speaking for every child, but I'm just saying, we know that the children aren't street smart because they get into too much too quickly, and they don't think for themselves. And they're easily coerced into riding with people, getting in people's cars. So I know that a lot of children are not street smart. Let's finish this commentary.
DL about this case, correct?
I could have, but I didn't.
Okay. Have you ever heard DL mention to you anything about a bloody knife?
I don't question my grandkids about anything.
Okay. Has he ever mentioned you?
Do you see how stupid this lady sounds? She's telling the court, I don't question anything. These are the defense attorneys, because the prosecution have women prosecuting and the defense has men prosecuting. So I don't question my grandchildren about anything. No, I didn't ask him about Breasia's death either. Breasia's death. Why not? They were the ones that left your house, lady. You called your daughter to say, Breasia wants to go to Henry's house with DL, and the mother said, okay. Hell, looks like she was already gone. I don't even know why you called her. What difference does it make? Because you didn't have the upper hand in the situation. If you told Breasia off the cuff, you can't go to Henry's, that should have been the end of the conversation. That should have been the end of the conversation. Hey, Grandma, can I go with DL to Henry's? No. That's not a part of the plan. Your mama said you can't go anywhere. He's the only one that's supposed to go with his daddy. And then guess what? That'd be the end of the conversation. And if I turned around and realized that little girl had made her way out that damn house, somebody would be getting a damn whooping. And if that means me going to Henry's house and finding her, hell to the yeah. So now you got to ask that question. How did DL and Breasia get from the grandmother's apartment to Henry's house, Henry's apartment? He come knock on the door. He sat in the car. He honked the horn. What? See, I don't hear none of that. He was expected to come pick up his son, DL. He called the mother, or he called the grandmother, hey, I'm on my way. DL getting his stuff. The little girl said, hey, I want to go. And then the brother says, come on, you can go anyway. Don't worry about what grandmama talking about. And she just take off any fucking way. Lord of mercy. This is why the children are so damn wayward right now. There's no supervision.
Anything about bleach or cleaning off a knife with bleach. I don't question my grandkids about nothing. Has he ever mentioned to you anything about being present when Breasia was shot? Again, I don't. I wait until they come to me, and he never did.
That's Grandma on the stand. Let's bring back Marie Pereira. She's a criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor.
I don't question my grandchildren about nothing. She says it, at least 2 times to this defense attorney. This goes to show you she didn't give a fuck about her grandkids. You have a missing granddaughter who is later found dead, and you're going to tell the defense attorney, I wait for the children to come to me to talk about what happened to the girl child. Well, guess what, Grandma? You should have been on DL's ass and your mama's and your daughter's ass as well. Who is this Negro? What do you know about him, don't know about him? See, let me tell you what I found strange about this cross-examination. When the lawyer asked her, had you met Henry before July 9th or 10th? And she said yes. I don't know, it's something about that struck me strange. I don't know why, but it did. Because it makes me wonder, how many times has Grandma met Henry? When was the last time Aisha was with Henry? Because I thought we were talking about 2 children, but we now have a defense attorney talking about another child by the name of CS, and I don't know if this is a boy or a girl, and if this child also belongs to Mr. Henry Denkin'S. Somebody in the chat says the girlfriend noticed the baby girl missing and said she saw her outside. Why did she not go down there to bring her back in? Yeah, and we do have testimony pertaining to the child being outside. I guess with Mr. Denkin'S, and they were going back and forth with cross-examination pertaining to the child being outside. See, that's what I'm saying. If the child was outside, because you're going to have some type of proof that she was actually out there in the dark, let's say. Why would she be out there in the dark if she was allegedly afraid of the dark? So see, you're going to have all these questions you don't have answers to, because now you don't know who to believe. You can't believe Mr. Denkin'S. The little boy is allegedly known to lie. So who's going to tell you the truth that the little girl was in the dark but allegedly afraid of the dark? And now we have testimony that the boy saw his father shoot his sister. So why would you be shooting her? Was the girl screaming, telling him to get off of her? What? This is strange to me. So I guess I need to listen to the whole testimony of the little boy, and let's see how far it goes to what the little girl was doing before death. This is bad. This is real bad.
In New York, and Marie, this case is so heartbreaking, and you wonder what happened. I mean, we don't know the motivation here, and you hear Grandma saying that Breasia looked at him as a father figure. He was around-ish. She earlier testified that, in her opinion, he came around when he wanted to. when you look at this case, it's just so heartbreaking. It was a last-minute sleepover, and this little 10-year-old ends up dead. He says no to a jury. I want to go with the judge. First of all, was that a good decision for the defense to just do a bench trial here and eliminate the 12 jurors?
Yes, I think it was, because there's a lot of emotion here. Even the police chief, as he spoke about it, broke down in tears. And even me, as a grandmother, I'm listening to it. I'm angry. So there would be a lot of emotions with the jurors as opposed to the judge who's going by the letter of the law. And that may help him, because at the end of the day, the jurors definitely will look at this little girl who was in his care and what he did to her. It wouldn't work well. I think picking a judge was strategically the right thing for him.
Now, the problem with the judge is that he obviously knows that he's got a past sex offender.
That's why he wanted a judge.
Where a jury likely wouldn't know that. So I guess that it might balance itself off. Bottom line is, this guy, you just look at him, and again, you can't judge a book by its cover, but when you factor in his past as a sex offender, and he was suspect number one, I'm not sure where the defense is going here. You know, you listen to the cross of these witnesses, and I'm not seeing the ball move much. Your thoughts? Is there any opening where you would think that the judge at the end of the day is going to come back and say not guilty at this point?
I think we have to wait until, the fat lady sings and we have closing statements and all the evidence is presented before we can say anything. But my main concern is, why was this child even with him when he already had the sex offender conviction?
Thank you.
To my understanding.
Yes.
So why was he left unsupervised with children? And you can, I feel a lot of empathy for the grandmother, and not to throw her under the bus, but she's sitting here saying, I don't ask my grandchildren about nothing. I wait for them to come to me. Well, yeah, you need to ask your grandchildren about everything, especially when the grandchildren are exposed to sex offenders. What happened when you went over there? Does he ever do this to you?
Right.
If you're going to let your kids be around people who are already suspect, then you need to ask questions all the time of your grandkids, period. Especially when they're so little and impressionable like that and vulnerable. Yes, askquestions.com. That's what I do. I ask my grandson everything about everyone when I expose him to anyone, even unknown people who don't have a history of abusing children.
Right.
I say, how was your day? What happened?
Right.
How was the play date? You have to ask, because we're responsible for protecting these children.
Right.
Why was this child even over there in the first place?
Right.
Yeah, it was the last minute thing, according to the grandmother, another testimony where she wanted to go along with her brother, who is being referred to as DL for the purposes of the court. And he testified, DL did, about what he saw, what he heard. And let's take a listen to some of his cross-examination.
All right, everybody, here we go.
He was only, I believe, 8 years old at the time.
Oh, 8.
But let's listen in. You don't see him, but you can hear his voice.
In a book, you can be anything.
Ooh, sorry about that. Brief commercial. So when you listen to him talk, he's 11. He sounds a little more grown and a little more smart alecky. And that's what I was questioning when he was testifying in court yesterday. I kept saying, how old is this kid? So we now know he was 8 at the time of the crime, but he is now at least about 11 years old during the testimony yesterday.
Yes.
You saw your dad shoot Breasia Terrell?
Yes.
Okay. And how come you didn't say that when the prosecutor asked you? Because it's not the truth, right?
Everything I say is true.
You just conveniently left out the fact that you saw your sister get shot when the prosecutor was asking you?
I didn't leave it out. I didn't speak about it. I hate speaking about it.
Did you and the prosecutor talk about this ahead of time?
In private, yeah.
And you just told her not to ask you about it because you don't like to speak about it?
I didn't tell her not to.
Okay. Well, your testimony today is you saw Henry Denkin'S shoot your sister.
Yes.
What kind of gun did he use?
I don't know.
How close were you to the incident?
A couple feet.
Okay. Was it a pistol or a long gun?
How am I supposed to know what it is?
You were a couple feet away. That's how
I
you're
maybe
supposed
saw
to
it, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. What color was the gun?
Silver.
Marie, it's heartbreaking to, this kid. I'm not sure, to what extent he's telling the truth at this point. He's trying to help the conviction. He obviously thinks his dad killed Breasia, but this is the first time that anybody heard him apparently say that he actually saw him shoot the gun and kill her. That in front of a jury could be a problem, right, for the state, because if you don't believe, then now you're starting to create some just uneasy feelings. A judge is going to be able to parcel that out, right? Correct? The judge will be able to take everything appropriately with the knowledge that he has of the discovery of the case and all of the pretrial motions. So from that standpoint, having a bench trial is good for the state almost when you're evaluating DL's testimony.
Absolutely, because even me listening to that testimony for the first time, I got all choked up. This child who's testifying was about 8 years old when this happened.
Right.
My grandson is 8. He still can't tell left shoe from right shoe. He'd be embarrassed if he knew I said that. But they're little children at 8. So imagine he witnessed that.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
The defense attorney is
Exactly.
grilling him, saying,
Exactly.
you're lying because
Exactly.
you didn't say it then. And he's trying to explain his emotions. I hope this child is getting therapy because he needs it. But yes, strategically, that was a good thing, because if a juror even heard that, it would work against the alleged killer.
All right, everybody. So now we have the age of the child, which is very interesting, because that's going to show that perhaps he was coerced. And naturally, you can be coerced at any age. We as adults get coerced, even though most people say, well, you're an adult, you have the right to say yay or nay. But when you're talking about a child, it's totally different, because you're talking about fear of safety, preservation of life. So if I just watch this man who's my father kill my sister, he's not her father, but nonetheless, he just committed a brutal crime. Who knows what the child was experiencing at the time of the death of his sister? And then you're talking about an 8-year-old. Hell yeah, he could lie and say, I don't know what happened, this and that. But we hear in testimony that he told this defense attorney, I told the other guy or person what happened. The other lawyer. So naturally, things have changed. There's been swapping of hands of lawyers from 2020 up into 23. He may have told somebody 3 years ago, yeah, I saw my dad shoot my sister. So this lawyer sounds stupid saying, well, you didn't tell me. And then the kid quips back, I told the other lawyer. So he ain't a dodo bird, the kid. He ain't a dodo bird. But could it be that the child was coerced by police to say, yeah, say you saw him shoot your sister? I don't know, because I wasn't there. I'm just giving hypothetical situations. So now you got to go back. We'd have to go back and listen to this testimony to get the 411 and decide what we believe and don't believe. Was the child present at the time of death of Breasia? Or was he upstairs in the apartment or inside of an apartment or wherever he was with the girlfriend? The girlfriend, what does she know and what did she witness? Did Mr. Henry tell her what he did with the child? Because killers are known to confess their sins to people. And when they know that they have a dodo bird, gullible one under their wing, they don't mind confessing. Yeah, I killed the kid. Yeah, I did this to her, him. And nobody ever tells the truth. Because you got to ask yourself, where did he kill the little girl? See, all those things are going to be relevant to finding out the truth. Jury, no jury. Where was the little girl murdered? Who was an eyewitness to the murder? Is the little boy telling the truth that he saw his father kill his sister? Saw him with a knife, saw him cleaning it, saw him using bleach, pouring the bleach over in the woods somewhere. So was the little girl over there and he was pouring bleach on what? Her body, her clothes, what? This dogs hitting on the campers, Camaro, the nose of the door. Is that from other dead people's remains or Breasia's remains? But the fact that the dog took the dog handler across an intersection, that speaks volumes to me. No, they were chasing the scent of Breasia and Mr. Denkin'S, because Mr. Denkin'S, that's where you travel. And we also got testimony of the mother trying to call you that day, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You wouldn't respond. And then while she's riding down the road, you're going in the opposite direction to McDonald's or somewhere. Why? While she's trying to call you, you're not answering, but you're on your way to eat. So you rather feed your fat face than answer about what happened to her damn kid. See, this is why you cannot allow your children to go anywhere. Naturally, you've got to be trusting at some point because your child won't have a life. And then you also hinder the growth of a child that stays in all the time, and they won't have the experience of the world, different races, backgrounds, cultural events. You'll still be doing harm to the child. But once the child is out of sight, he's ripe for the taking, he or she. It is what it is. Whether it be the schoolhouse, the picture show, the game, sports, spending the night at a friend's house, relative's house. Once the child is out of sight, anything can happen. When I was going into Google search to pull this story up so I can get this background information on Mr. Denkin'S, I didn't remember his name and Breasia's name, so all type of crazy stories came up with sleepovers. What was so amazing in the Google search was all these dead kids who died during a sleepover. Even the one with the black lady in Georgia who spent the night at the friend's house that were Caucasian. And they cleared these people of any wrongdoing. It was interesting to see how many stories came up in the Google search pertaining to dead children and sleepovers. One after the other, white, black. I was like, what in the hell? Group of kids, older, shot by, I believe, a rapist at a sleepover. It's like, how do you kill kids? Killing your own is one thing. Killing a stranger's child is another thing. But then killing a group of kids in one room or setting. Why? See, there's no rhyme or reason for murder. As you see with all these stories that we talk about and discuss. Only the killer knows why he or she took the life of that person or persons. And I'm sure the state is going to bring us a motive for Mr. Denkin'S killing Breasia. I'm going to weigh on the latter, that it was sexual in nature, because he already has a sexual past. And a lot of people do not feel that sadists can be cured. It's been said by many mental health professionals that that is the one crime or vice that can't be cured. And that is sadistic behavior, such as sexual assault and serial killing. Cannot change. And I'm going to kind of agree, because let's just keep it real. You can pray to Allah, God, Buddha, whomever, but in the end, you're not out here dealing with people when you're incarcerated. So you can say anything while locked up. And many people locked up do this. I'm going to change. I've changed. You can't say you've changed because you're not out here dealing with the public. You can only say you've changed once you are released and you're dealing with the public, emotions, things that go bump in the night that can test you. And I'm not saying you can't be tested in prison, but it's out here is where most people have their problem. It's dealing with daily life, events, having to pay bills, relationships, so on and so forth. So a rapist, child molester, serial killer could easily say, let me out, let me out. I promise I've changed. I've been in here 2 years, 8 years. I'm a different man. I won't kill again. I won't rape again. But 9 times out of 10, you would. And most rapists and serial killers will tell you, if you let me go, I will rape again and I will kill again. Because it's in them. Whether they were born that way or they acquired this deficiency to assault, they're not going to change. And that's the problem here. He has a past already. And when you have a 17-year-old raping a 5-year-old, 9 times out of 10, he learned this behavior somewhere, taught, touched himself. Many sadists were molested his children. He grew up to molest. And then who's to say he has not been molesting children up until the arrest of Breasia? See, that's something nobody's touched on. Has he been sexually assaulting children up until the arrest of Breasia? Because you're now mentioning 3 children in a court proceeding. And you have a grandmother saying DL and Breasia were around this man before her death. So now we have to ask the ultimate question. Did he molest Breasia and DL? The CS child, how old was that child? Was that his own child or another child? Who does that child belong to? Whose father is that child? This is so confusing. Was the CS child around? Is this a younger child or older child? Did this child ever get touched by him? See, 1,000 questions. You also hear the commentary that he came around when he felt like it. So that means he probably was an absentee father of DL. So now you got to ask the next question. How many children does Mr. Denkin'S have total? See, the questions are nonstop. When did she meet him? Aisha. Did she not know about the fucking criminal record or not? Was he born in Iowa? Committed the crime in Iowa? 9 times out of 10, yes. That's why he was sentenced in Iowa to prison. Any other allegations of sexual abuse, child molestation, rape by any other living human being against Mr. Denkin'S? Why didn't his parole officer know about his address? Or was he not on parole? He did it straight time. Because I mentioned that earlier. Let me make a correction on that commentary. Is it that he went to prison, did the flat time of 10 years, and didn't have a parole officer, but had to register? Forgive me for that indiscretion. Flattened his time, got out, registered periodically. I don't know, because I don't know what he's been doing. But then he kills a kid. She goes missing, then found dead. Oops, he ain't registered. See, this is where the system is flawed. But if he ain't on parole, there's nobody to keep up with him. He's just supposed to register. So basically, he's on his own walking around the earth. So no parole officer, he can go where the hell he wants to go without confiding in someone. And they have parole officers and still won't do what they're supposed to do. Work, give their whereabouts, check in. And naturally, the parole officer will, go to the judge to get, a warrant issue for them not obeying the parole. This is a bad, bad story. And this story is prevalent, and it's going to be around while I'm gone, no longer living, because we have people who just don't care enough about self, and they don't care enough about their children. And you've heard people say that to people. Damn, at least if you don't give a fuck about yourself, can you at least care something for your children? But that's what people don't seem to understand. If I don't care enough about myself, why are you expecting me to care about my kid? That's an assumption. Oh, well, you brought him here, you should care. It doesn't work that way. If I ain't got no self-love, I ain't got no love, period. And when you listen to the grandmother speak in this commentary, she's wayward. I don't question nothing. I don't ask anything. I'm waiting for them to come to me. Why the fuck are you waiting for an 8-year-old to come tell you what the fuck happened with his sister and his daddy? That's a stupid person talking. She needs to be whacked upside the head too. Her and her damn daughter. That's why the daughter is possibly wayward. Oh yeah, she gonna spend the night and knew all along her kids are laying up with a child molester. That's a long time ago. He changed. He didn't mean to do it. At 18, 17, you do know you shouldn't be touching a 5-year-old. Children are curious. Children play house. They touch each other. It's a natural event that happens with children, even if they're of the same family, brother and sister. But somebody has to teach them that it is wrong. So if you never catch your children touching each other, that's going to be a problem down the road. That's going to be a problem. Boys touching boys, boys touching girls, vice versa. Oh, I don't think they're in denial. Terry, they know exactly what's going on. They're grown. They know what's up. The grandmother's older than the daughter. She doesn't care. And she raised her daughter to not care. So you think this lady's going to come forward to the public and tell them, yeah, I knew he was a sexual sadist and I still laid down with him and had a baby and allowed my children to be in his company? She's not going to tell you that. Now, somebody close to her will have to be the one to come out and tell us, yeah, she knew. We had conversations about Henry being a pedophile, this and that. She knew, but she laid up with him anyway. This is deviant. And we have to pray for the little ones because they don't ask to be here. They don't choose their parents. We didn't choose our parents. And you just have to pray that children will get the fortitude to learn some common sense and boundaries and how to maintain in the world. But that doesn't happen often because it's up to us to rear the children. Now, once they are grown, they're entitled to do as he or she sees fit. And Breasia is not with us because I don't think anybody cared. And that's my opinion. Somebody will have to prove to me the mother had no knowledge of his past criminal background. But the attitude itself is nonchalant by the mother and the grandmother. The grandmother says she doesn't question the children, never asks the child what happened to Breasia. Then you have the mother also testifying that she didn't even remember that the little boy told her that, yeah, I saw him shoot my sister, your child. How would you forget that? I can see the 8-year-old forgetting things, and he's now, 11 or 12, but not the mother. She sat right up in court and said, no, I don't remember if he told me or not that he killed her, that he saw his father kill her. I thought, what? That should be in your memory like white on rice. Yeah, I can tell you what I was wearing when he told me. He killed my baby. His father killed my baby. I had on blue jeans, a red shirt, black shoes, something. I don't recollect. I don't remember. So she's just as dense as the damn grandmother. But they're willingly dense. Willful intent to not give a fuck. That's what I see with both. Prayers for this family. I pray that she doesn't have custody of any of her children. And let's go there and I'm going to check out of here. Does she have custody of DL and this other child, CS? Because I don't think she needs to have custody of her children. And I'm wondering if the Department of Human Services was involved after this death of Breasia, which I'm sure they were. And did they find her fit to continuously keep her children? Because Aisha, I don't think you need to be having no children. You don't need an 11-year-old. You don't need an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 2-year-old. Because now we have to go back in time and do something that we don't want to do, which is picture Henry Denkin'S around you and your babies as a sexual predator. Now imagine that. Dolly says he took 2 girls and the boy, left the other boy because he said he had no room. He knew his intentions when he took her. I guess the other boy was not his. He took 2 girls and the boy. What other girl are you talking about? Well, Breasia isn't his. That's not his child, so why did he take her? He didn't have any intention of taking her. So if everybody's following the story, it's allegedly the small child, which is his child, is the one doing the negotiating on who can go and not go, allegedly. So I want you to think about that for just a second. The girl wasn't supposed to be going, just DL. Oh, he took his 2 kids. Okay, so that must be CS then, the one that the lawyer was speaking of. So that must be a girl child. They're not calling the child's name out in court for obvious reasons. So now we're talking about how many kids then? He took 2 kids. So he took DL and he took Breasia. And CS was left behind. So is this a baby child under DL and Breasia? I'll have to watch the trial from the beginning to get a better understanding, because I don't want to repeat anything that's not correct. This is why I don't like talking about children's stories. They're too complicated for my taste. Too much he said and she said and Pookie said and Ray said and the lawyer said. And that's why I don't like doing children's stories, because it gets real ignorant. People become very ignorant in talking about children's stories. They like to argue about shit that's, to me, irrelevant. We're talking about a dead kid. What is there to argue about? He had a criminal record that you can look up. 9 times out of 10, he's from Iowa. And the streets talk. I think Aisha didn't care. She knew he had a record, a nasty record, and she didn't care. And she made a child with him. And he came around, as the grandmother said, at will. And it's still jacked up. Because 9 times out of 10, he was molesting her children in her peripheral, when her back was turned, and when she allowed him to take her children. That's the gist of the story. If you know that a person is a predator, has a criminal background, or has been accused of child molestation, rape, and you allow him or her to come around you and your children, you date them, you are just as nasty as he or she is. And that's the bottom line. And anybody that has knowledge, you need to report them, that they're allowing a predator to be in the midst of their children. I judge them all the same. I don't give passes to child molesters, and I don't give passes to people who date or marry them. Continue to date them and marry them. And another thing, this girlfriend, what does she know? And did she also know he had a criminal record? Stay woke. And now she's an ex. Why? Because everybody started talking, or she had morals and decided, I can't date a child raper, killer, because we got to wait to see what the motive is going to be for the child's murder. I'm leaning towards sexual deviance against the girl. And did the girlfriend have children? How about that? You see, the rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper as I speak. Did the ex-girlfriend have children? How long did he date her? Does she have children with Mr. Henry Denkin'S? How about that? How many children has he touched inappropriately while he's been free from prison? Did he molest any of the children at the household belonging to Aisha? That's including all sons, daughters that belong to him and didn't belong to him. The ex-girlfriend, Miss Denkin'S, other women's children, other children peripheral he came into, friends, family members. Stay woke. The rabbit hole is much deeper. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to start to hear stories about Mr. Denkin'S, that he was a nasty bird. You're going to probably hear things about his childhood, the people who raised him, brothers and sisters. You're probably going to hear some prison stories. And then you're going to hear the worst stories, what he was doing when he got out of prison, and any allegations of improprieties done against little boys and girls, if indeed he has a preference. I want to thank you for your time. God bless all of you. Prayers to our neighbors in Hawaii. Please stay hydrated if you're in an area that is warm, hot. And pray for our babies because they need our prayers. Because a lot of them are out here on their own. And they don't have appropriate supervision. They have wayward ass parents who don't give a fuck, who want to drink and smoke and get high and pop pills and smoke dope, fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine. They don't give a damn. And they don't mind having this bloke around their kids, wayward females around their kids. They talk any type of way in front of their children, around their children, smoking, chiefing. And a lot of people don't think marijuana is a big deal, but it is a big deal because, as they have said, it's a gateway to other drugs. And I never thought that it would be. But a lot of experts say that it is. And a lot of you think it's okay to even sit around and smoke marijuana in front of your children, around your children. It may be harmless to you, but people can smell marijuana and you can smell it on your children. For those of you who are not enlightened. So when your children leave the house, people now know that wherever they live and been, somebody imbibes in Miss Mary Jane. And I'm going to be truthful with you. I don't like smelling marijuana. I don't want it on my clothes. I don't want it in my car, and I don't want it in my house. And I definitely don't want to smell it on a baby or a child. And as I told you all months ago, when I had picked up 2 children during rideshare, they smelled like marijuana. So the first thing came to mind, either the children were smoking it, or whoever house they were in smoked marijuana. And the fact that they were getting in my car and didn't know me from a can of paint, that was scary as well. Because it's one thing to be a rideshare driver, putting strangers in your car. It's another thing to be a stranger getting into a rideshare driver's car. And you would pay for 2 children to get in my car and don't know who I am or anything. And then your kids are hanging out on a Monday night going from house to house as if it's not a school night. See, this is what I'm saying. There's no regard for children. You're smoking weed in a house. You're putting them in a stranger's car. You think, oh, well, it's on an app. They could trace me, blah, blah, blah. Of course. But it's principle. And then you're sending your child to go to somebody else's house to spend the night on a weeknight when we was just coming off of spring break. That's my commentary. You've been listening to The Vault XL.